Hello, Sarita ma'am. Hello, Sarita ma'am. Hello, Sarita ma'am. இப்போ வரையில இல்லை இப்போ வரையில ஹலோ கேக் இப்போ வரையில இல்லை இப்போ வரையில ஹலோ கேக் இப்போ வரையில இல்லை இப்போ வரையில ஹலோ கேக் ஹலோ சுபா மேம். ஹலோ சுபா மேம். ஹலோ சுபா மேம்.
Good afternoon to everyone present here.
Good
Shall we
afternoon, ma'am.
start the presentation, madam?
Ma'am, we'll get the permission from our principal. Just a second, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone
Madam
present
Principal,
here.
shall we start the meeting, ma'am?
Shall we
Oh, you
start
can
the
start it.
presentation, madam?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Dr. Padmavati. Permission from our principal. Just a second, ma'am. Shall we proceed, ma'am? Madam Principal,
Yes.
shall we start the meeting? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Oh, you can
Over to
start
Swati
it.
Sutri. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Dr. Padmavati.
Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Internal
Shall we
Quality
proceed, ma'am?
Assurance Cell of V.V.Vanniaperumal College for Women, Virudhunagar,
Okay, thank you,
we
ma'am.
welcome you all to the
Over to
third
Swati
day
Sutri.
of National Level 5-day Online Faculty Development Program on NEP
Good
2020.
afternoon to all. On behalf
Education
of
that is
Internal
outcome
Quality
based
Assurance
is a
Cell
learner
of
centered,
V.V. Vanniaperumal
results
College for
oriented
Women,
system
Virudhunagar,
founded on the
we
belief
welcome you
that
all
all
to the
individuals can
third
learn.
day of
On
National
that
Level
hope, as an
5-day
individual,
Online
we
Faculty
have all
Development
gathered
Program
here
on
to
NEP
learn about the
2020.
attainments of outcome based
Education
education.
that is outcome based
Now,
is a learner
I would like
centered,
to invite
results
our
oriented
beloved
system
madam,
founded on
Dr.
the belief
R.P.
that all
Aditya,
individuals can
Assistant
learn.
Professor of
On that
Mathematics
hope,
and
as
IQAC
an
member,
individual,
to
we
welcome the
have all
gathering.
gathered here to learn about the attainments of outcome based education.
A very
Now,
pleasant
I
good
would like
afternoon
to
to one and all
invite our
present here.
beloved madam,
I feel
Dr.
extremely
R.P.
happy to
Aditya,
welcome you all to the
Assistant
third
Professor
day
of
of National
Mathematics
Level
and
5-day
IQAC
online
member,
faculty
to welcome
development
the
program
gathering.
on NEP 2020, organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell V.V.Vanniaperumal College for Women, Virudhunagar. At the outset, I wholeheartedly welcome our chairperson of IQAC, our esteemed principal, Madam Dr. S.M. Rani ma'am, who meticulously guide us in each and every step of all our IQAC activities. I take immense pleasure in welcoming our IQAC coordinator, Dr. S. Sindhana Madam, who is the secret behind the smooth functioning of IQAC. I am very much privileged to welcome today's Chief Guest Dr. G. Batmavati, Dean, School of Physical Sciences and Computational Sciences, Avinasi Lingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore. I was astonished after reading her biodata. She has 33 years of teaching experience. Her specializations are cyber security, wireless communication, real time systems. She has guided 14 PhD scholars and 15 MPhil scholars. At present, she is guiding 8 PhD scholars. She has done many research projects, consultancy projects, and other government projects. She has published more than 200 papers in both national and international levels. She has published 10 books. As a student and as a professional, she has received many awards. Some of them are Best NSS Officer Award at the university level. She has been acknowledged and honored as the perfect online course designer on cyber security by the Honorable Ministry HRD, Government of India. Class Central has listed her cybersecurity course as one of the best of all time online courses. She has been selected as one of the top 100 educators 2013 2015 by International Biographical Center, Cambridge, England. She has also received Bharat Excellence Award. She has also been selected for the 2018 Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award. She has been the reviewer of many reputed journals. She has been the editorial board member of World of Computer Science and Information Technology Journal. We are fortunate to have such a versatile genius as a research person for this session. Welcome you, madam. I am also much elated to welcome my dear colleagues and the faculty members from various institutions. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you. We are fortunate to have such a versatile genius as a research person
Thank you,
for this
ma'am.
session. Welcome you,
Now, I
madam.
would like to
I am
invite
also
our
much
esteemed
elated
guest
to
of
welcome my dear
speaker,
colleagues
Dr.
and the
G.
faculty members
Batmavati,
from various
Dean, School of
institutions.
Physical
Once
Sciences
again,
and
I
Computational
welcome you all.
Sciences,
Thank you.
Avinashini Lingam, Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women,
Thank you,
Coimbatore,
ma'am.
to give the special
Now,
address.
I would like to invite our esteemed
Thank you,
guest of speaker,
organizers, for
Dr. G.
a very
Batmavati, Dean,
wonderful
School of Physical Sciences
uh,
and Computational
introduction
Sciences,
about
Avinashini
myself.
Lingam,
I
Institute
would
for Home
like to
Science and
straight
Higher Education
away
for Women,
share my
Coimbatore, to give the
screen,
special address. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed
go
guest
to
of
the
speaker, Dr.
presentation.
G.
A very
Batmavati,
wonderful.
Dean, School of
I
Physical
hope you
Sciences
are
and
able to
Computational Sciences,
see that.
Avinashini Lingam,
I
Institute
would
for Home
like to
Science and
Yes,
straight
Higher
ma'am.
away,
Education for
yeah.
Women, Coimbatore, to
Are
give
you
the
able to
special
see the
address.
screen properly? Okay. Thank you, organizers, for this wonderful opportunity to interact with the faculty members, especially when you are arranging a national level 5-day online faculty development program on NEP 2020, which is the need of the hour today. Every faculty is expected to know and how we can implement the same in our own institutions for the betterment of the student community. I have chosen the topic outcome-based education, the attainment of outcomes, which is also a part of NEP 2020 implementations. If we look at some of the fundamental principles of NEP 2020 policy, it says recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each and every student, emphasis on conceptual understanding, creativity and critical thinking, development of life skills, focus on regular formative assessment for learning, and extensive use of the technology. These are some of the fundamental principles of NEP which are very much or closely aligned with outcome-based education. Under NEP 2020, point number 12 says, provide optimum learning environment and support to the students, which is also a very important point under the institutional development plan, IDP in short, most of the institutions are working on now. It says effective learning requires appropriate curriculum. Curriculum must be strong. Not only that, the curriculum must be interesting, it should be updated regularly, it should be relevant for the day, must be aligned with the latest knowledge requirements, and it should meet all the specific learning outcomes expected out of a learner or a student, for which they have already provided the choice-based credit system framework, which instills the innovation and flexibility in the education system. A criterion-based grading system helps to assess the student achievements based on their learning outcomes or goals, which are aligned with every program, and it makes the system fair, and of course the outcomes derived henceforth are very much comparable. So this is the place where outcome-based education find its own place. Many of you must be wondering why, when all the other important concepts like ABC, multidisciplinary education, and then blended learning, and of course Indian knowledge system or holistic education, when these are in the highlights, but of course what is hidden, the underlying factor, this is the outcome-based education, which is touched upon by me in today's discussion. I would like to say some few words about the fundamentals and then take off to the attainment status, which is much more scientific and mathematical in nature sometimes. 5 important things one must know about outcome-based education are: what is OBE first? Second, why institutions need to follow OBE? Third, how is it measured? Fourth, measures of assessment. And finally, the methods of attainment. Now, the entire discussion is going to focus on the methods of attainment, as one of your faculty previously mentioned that for the past 2 years you are practicing outcome-based education system. Of course, all of you must be knowing about it, but I would like to still emphasize on this. What are the significance of OBE? Because why OBE has to be adopted, why that is the underlying phenomena in NEP 2020, which is the baseline of all the other education practices that they are trying to build upon. First of all, it improves the quality of education. It promotes or enhances global mobility. Our students can move from one place to another place globally. Lots and lots of flexibility, which you might have already learned through your academic bank of credits and online distance education and so on. and lot of empowerment oriented approach for learners. And graduates are more ready, industry ready, and for other stakeholders, whatever that is expected out of them is very much is there, and it promotes continuous quality improvement. And all of us know that OBE has got international origin, and in the year 1989 there was Washington Accord, where 6 foundations, signatory organizations from Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, UK, and US participated, and it was an international partnership. And on 13th June, India became the permanent signatory member. From that time onwards, we started adopting OBE in higher educational institutions. The technical institutions started first and subsequently followed by arts and science and other types of institutions which are broadly assessed by NBA and NEP. Of course, a very important challenge in OBE is that assessment and attainment. This involves proper definition of various factors, like what is the actual class size, how are you going to address the gap between the learners' expectations, their characteristics, their level of learning, and other real factors. What are the teaching practices and pedagogies that must be followed? How are the evaluation systems to be tuned towards these new aspects? Above all, these types of capacity building programs for the faculty are generally done. I appreciate the management for doing it at the right point of time, which is especially required because things must be simplified for better understanding. And finally, how are we going to motivate the students to take it back to their level? If you look at the OBE connotation, outcome-based education mainly depends upon the outcome-based curriculum, which in turn focuses on outcome-based teaching and learning process or learning and teaching process, and finally whether the student has achieved whatever he or she is expected to achieve. How are we going to make the students to achieve those outcomes? That is possible in terms of the assessment and measure of attainment. Some of the constituents or the major components of OBE are, you might have started with the vision and mission of your institution. The program educational objectives, of course, they are measured after 5 years by the stakeholders like industry, your employee, and so on. Then comes the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Then you have the course outcomes. So you start with the mission and vision of the institution, and you go gradually down at the micro level as well as macro level to introduce the entire thing in your education system. Thereby, you are trying to take inputs from the stakeholders and the constituents in a periodic manner so that continuous improvement is a possibility. So, the main focus is on the course planning and the delivery. A course or a subject here has got a syllabus. There are certain teaching methods, there are certain activities, and finally, whether all these objectives are reflected or taught so that the measurable outcomes are attained by the students. So, for which you need a lot of assessment tools. This is how you go for that, and thereby the institutional assessment happens in terms of the course level assessment, the program level assessment, and finally it reflects on the institutional level assessment. We can see some examples how these are mapped and reflected in the system. Of course, you all are well versed in POs. I understand since you are practicing for the past 2 years, you might have defined the POs of all your programs. I have taken some examples, POs like critical thinking, effective communication, social interaction, effective citizenship, ethics, environment and sustainability, self-directed and lifelong learning. These are the 7 major POs mentioned in NAC, which are meant for arts and science institution. Whereas certain other institutions, they have further classification among the POs like knowledge outcomes. Some are under knowledge outcomes, some are classified under the skill-based outcomes, and some are under the general competencies. I'm not going to elaborate on how a PO has to be formulated. This is for your kind information. All of us are aware of the fact that Bloom's taxonomy is the fundamental thing a teacher has to know once she or he is entering into the outcome-based education system, because this is like a base, this is like the guideline which helps us to assess the various knowledge levels of the learners. All of us know that there are 6 levels: K1, K2, K3, K4, K5 and K6. Subsequently, there are revised Bloom's taxonomy, which says, can the student recall or remember? Can the student be able to explain the ideas? Can the student use the information in a different way or a new way? Is the student, or can the student distinguish between different similar types? Can they evaluate and justify and take a decision on that? Finally, whether the student is capable of creating a new product or a process or something from their point of view. So this is how the revised Bloom's taxonomy formulates to assess the student's learning level. Here is a simple PO because we are talking about the attainment, so I have to give a sample POs, PO1 to PO7. The expertise in the discipline, multidisciplinary things, innovation, ethical principles, and so on. You might also have a similar outline in your program. What is important is for every subject or the course, we have the course outcomes. Probably you might have taken 5 course outcomes, 7 or 10 program outcomes, 3 or 5 program specific outcomes. For example, if an institution is offering BSc, then you have 10 program outcomes. If your institution is offering BSc Mathematics, then there are 3 specific outcomes. They are known as program specific outcomes or PSOs. Again, if you have BSc Computer Science, they may have 3 specific outcomes. So the 10 outcomes are going to be common for the BSc programs, whereas the 3 specific outcomes, they are specific to mathematics or computer science or botany or zoology or physics or chemistry, depending upon the program which you are offering in your own department. This is a simple table. I will get back to you at a later point of time. Okay. So having defined your institution's vision and mission, having listed all the programs and categorizing them as undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs. Further, under the undergraduate programs, you can have BA, BCom, BSc, etc. So for every BSc program, you might have defined program outcomes, say 10 in number. Beyond that, you are also defining program specific outcomes. And going back to your course or subject, every subject has got 5 outcomes. Then you have the evaluation methods, tools to evaluate. For example, an internal assessment is one tool. Assignment is another tool. You may have a seminar as a tool. Then project, mini project is a tool. Field visit is a tool. Likewise, you may have so many tools of assessment for a particular course. Now the step is, once the assessment is properly in place, done in place, then the next level is have we attained that? That is the attainment process. So the next step, once defining all these, the next thing is assessment and attainment. Okay. If you look at the OBE assessment methods, you all must be knowing that the assessment methods, they play a major role in the education system or in the education process. It actually serves as a basis for determining the rate of learning or the progress made by an individual student. And this is the main source of information for about the students, so that the faculty or the institution can work on it for further improving the system. So basically there are, according to literature, I can say OBE assessment methods are two types. One is the direct method and the other one is the indirect method. If you look at the entire assessment process, as I told you, we start with the vision and the mission, then program educational objectives, program objectives or program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and finally course outcomes. As I told you, we start from the bottom level. While defining, we start from the top level, and while mapping, we start from the bottom level, so that ultimately we can measure, as I told you previously, we can evaluate and check for the opportunities for further improvements, because you can see that it is an ongoing process. Yeah, inputs from the stakeholders, it is a cyclic process. You can see in this diagram, because it provides paveway for continuous improvement. So we are going to, yes, talk about the bottom-up approach here. So as I told you, for course outcomes, further, the assessments are of two types. One is the direct assessment and the other one is the indirect assessment. Again, for the program outcome, you have the direct and indirect assessments of outcomes. Finally, the PEO, program educational objective attainment, is also measured in terms of direct and the indirect assessments. You can see that for course outcome or a subject, the direct assessments are 100% associated with the assessment tools. As I just now told you, you have the test, you may have the assignment, you may have the seminar, you may have the field visit or a project, whatever it is. The indirect assessments are the course end survey and the faculty survey about the course. And a program outcomes, you have, I showed in the beginning, there is a mapping of COPO, which also you might have done it. That is the direct assessment, and the indirect assessment is your exit survey. For PEO, once again you have the mapping between PEO and PEO, and you have, as I told you, the alumni survey. The employee or an employer can as well give the survey, which will help us to check whether we have attained the vision and mission of this institution. So, assessment is the basis for attainment. Assessment deals with one or more processes, as I told you, to identify and evaluate the achievement of the student in a particular course, as well as collectively in a particular program. We saw the direct and indirect methods of assignment or assessment. There are two types of proportions. You can take them as 80-20, 90-10. That is direct assessment 80% or weightage, indirect 20, or it can also be 90-10. At course level, the assessment, if you look at the previous slide, you have the direct, indirect here. Same way you have the direct, indirect. Finally, also under PEO attainment, you have the direct, indirect. what is the weightage we give for direct and what is the weightage for indirect. More specifically for course outcome, it is 80-20. For program outcome, it is 90-10 or it can be 80-20. It's all your policy. And finally, here also it can be either 90-10 or 80-20. That is what is reflected here. We call it as direct versus indirect as 9 is to 1 or 8 is to 2 or 4 is to 1. Here, another important challenge from the faculty level is we have not only identified the tools of assessment. Tools are nothing but your tests, assignments, seminars, and so on. You must also identify the rubrics. If I say a seminar carries 20 marks, then it can be on the quality of the material that is submitted, the presentation of the student, and whether the student is able to clarify all the doubts during the presentation of the seminar, her knowledge level on the topic. Likewise, you can further divide the 20 marks into 5 each or 10 to 8, etc. They are all known as the rubrics. I have just given you some of the direct assessment methods which can help us to evaluate the students' performance. They are the assignments, examinations, term papers, projects, evaluated tests, quizzes, which are quite easily adapted nowadays, presentation, field work, and so on. And indirect methods are based on the indirect evidence of the students' achievement, and they are inferred by the faculty through their activities, knowledge, value system, etc. So these are some of the assessment methods themselves which can be adapted by a teacher depending upon the subject that they are teaching. So the same thing is you can just put it in the form of a graph for it. Now we come to the attainment process. I told you what is important are the assessment and the attainment because these two are closely knitted or related. Now we are talking about the OBE attainment. As I told you, that is very, very important from the perception of the student as per the NEP 2020 according to point number 12. If we remember this attainment process should once again be a scientific method. It should be derived in a very, very scientific manner so that the measurement and the attainment and the evaluation subsequently becomes a very, very scientific process which can take us, which can show us the right directions. So as started, we have to define the COs, map the COs, construct the CO-PO relationship matrix, or you can also call it as a matrix, mapping matrix. And you can also decide on the correlation, that is how strong or how weak, what is the relationship, and then try to map the CO-POs. And you can also find, does the COs reflect on the intended measurements? These are all the responsibilities of the individual teacher teaching the course or the chairman who is the head of the department who is well versed in the subject to show that, and finally the measurements. Here you can see that all the course assessments are linked and aligned to the desired course outcomes, that is at the course level you call it as formative assessment, and overall a program may offer 20-30 papers or subject or courses, so at the summative level which you call it as the program level. And this I have already told you, you have to start with the setting up of the proportion. First of all, I just skip this because this knowledge level you have already discussed, and the COs for each paper may be 5, say CO 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. For undergraduate you may go from K1 to K3, whereas for postgraduate you can start from K3 and go up to K6, or even assertive level you can also use as the evaluation or the cognitive level. Beyond the cognitive level also you can try to measure. And while setting up the proportion, all of us are sure that there are two components. One is the internal component and the other one is the external examination component. So you have the internal and the external components maybe in the ratio 50 to 50 or 40 to 60. Same way, the instruments and tools used are the test, assignments, and seminar. How are we going to give the weightage to the tests, assignments, and seminars depends upon your local system. Very importantly, what we have is the assessment threshold. The assessment threshold is something which we try to frame in the beginning of the attainment process itself, so that for every course outcome that is defined, it is always possible to fix the target, and of course all the attainment process are aligned with this target only. This target, of course, can be fixed for the entire course outcomes uniformly as it is mentioned here, or to every course outcomes. For example, if my first course outcome is to define the principles, understand the principles, I can give the weightage as 70. And the second course outcome says about analyzing the various concepts or chemicals or their applications or their principles in comparison to their potential application, all that. If you wish, you can give a higher weightage as target as 80%. Because these targets are generally fixed in the beginning so that the student's performance can be evaluated based on this. These targets either can be fixed by a teacher based on their own experience or level of expectation, or else it can also be based on our previous experience. For example, invariably the students' average performance is only 70%, then you can have the class average or the target for a particular course as well as for a particular course outcome as 70. And sometimes you may have a different grading scale for the targets. That is, the targets may be the same for all the COs, but you may have a varied grading scales. What do you mean by that? Suppose if I take the target as 70, as I mentioned in my previous slide, you can see how the grading scale for 70 lies. For example, less than 50% performance in a class is only 10%. Average number of students lie in the range of 50 marks to 70 marks. That is 70. That is the proportion of students lying. I can keep it as scale 2. And students, of course, distinction, extraordinary performance. They may have scale 3. Under scale 3, 20% of the students may be under this category. So you can also have a different grading scale for your students depending upon the COs, which may be class average, which can be fixed as the target. Now, I have brought to you a very simple table. Sorry, am I clear in my presentation? I'm not interacting. Shall I finish my presentation and come back to your questions? Are you comfortable with this presentation?
Yes, ma'am, no problem. You can proceed, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Shall I finish my presentation and come back to your question? Here is one small assessment. As I told you, assessment and attainment are closely knitted. What is the assessment pattern we are going to devise for our programs? What are the components? What are the rubrics we are going to follow? And how are we going to proportionate them? What is the weightage? Only then if this clarity is there, then you can check whether you have attained in full swing or not, if it is completely attained or not. I'll just explain to you with a small example. In our pattern, say undergrad, we have test 1, test 2, assignment 1, assignment 2, and seminar 1. So the total internal marks weightage is 50. Okay. How are we going to assess them in the knowledge level? For example, this is just an example. Likewise, each and every teacher can prepare something like that. As I told you, CO1 is about the recall and understand. So I may give lesser weightage, whereas CO2 may be on understand and analyze. CO3 may also be on understand and analyze, because all the CO1 to 5 you cannot evaluate in single stretch. So you can proportionately divide them. For example, I can have CO1 for all the tests, assignments and seminars. I can have CO2 for 2 tests and seminar alone. CO3 again 3, CO4 under 3 category and CO5 under 3 category, so that I can give appropriate weightage to them. What way it helps me devise the assessment pattern for every course outcome depending upon the components. Now I am coming back here. The weightage I have given for CO1, you can check here for CO1, CO2. It may be uniform or it may be different. So the percentage of weightage I have given, say, varies from 10 to 25. And if I ask a question paper, if I set a question paper, say if a question paper has 20 questions, out of the 20 questions, I may have 2 from CO1, 4 from CO2, 5, 4 from CO4 and 5 from CO5. So I can uniformly or I can ununiformly distribute the questions and the weightages which we have previously fixed. This is also an example. Now the weightage, you calculate the weightage which is always 1. So this is 0.25, this is 0.2, this is also 0.25, 1/4, this is 0.2 and this is 1. After setting up the weightage, then you can find the weighted average. That is, for 2 questions, the weightage is 0.2. For 4 questions, the weightage is 0.8. For 5 questions, it is 1.25. Likewise, you calculate the total weightage and you calculate the percentage of weightage. What do you mean by the percentage? 0.2 divided by 4.3. 0.8 divided by 4.3. 1.25 divided by 4.3. 0.8 divided by 4.3. 1.25 divided by 4.8. So you get appropriate weightage percentage for every CO 1, 2, 3 for each of the questions which you might have taken according to this form or a different form. Now you can see what are the marks obtained by the students. Test 1, which is for 10. So whether the student has attained or not, that you can based on the threshold. This you just leave it because you see the score alone and you take the average score, which is 7.41. So test 1 I have, you can just see here for test 1 I have the weightage 1. For this, I have got 0.74, which is the average score. So likewise, you remember the previous table and this table, you can proportionately compute the class average with the individual weightages of the CO1 to 3. I told you CO1 was present in all, CO2 in 3, CO3 in 3, CO4 in 3 and CO5 in 3. So you calculate 10 each. This is the proportionate weightage. So the entire class average you can calculate accordingly, and the percentage of CO1 attainment is 88.2, 82 respectively. Likewise, you can calculate the individual weightages based on the individual weightages assigned. You can calculate the class average percentage. Okay. Now, the internal weightages from the previous table is 88, 82, 74, etc. I have marked here. Then the external weightage is 50, internal marks 50, external marks 50. That external marks class average. Here again I have just taken a sample only. This you have to take from the examination. How do you take from the examination? Once again you go to the question paper. Then you say how many questions are, this is the one. How many questions are from CO1, what is the weightage, proportionate, everything. So you come here, you are timing. This is for simple calculation. I have assumed 75 crore. It need not be. Now, we are calculating, as I told you, there are two types of attainment. One is the direct attainment and the other one is the indirect attainment. Direct attainments are based on the assessments. What are the assessment components? Test, assignments and seminars. And what are the two important components? One is the continuous assessment and the other one is the external examination. I told you, no? There are very many assessment patterns here. Yeah. Assignments, examinations, term papers and so on. The weightage we have given is internal 50, external. So internal examination IE is very many assessment patterns here. Internal examination IE average is based on that. External examination, as I told you, you can calculate based on the method. Now you have to calculate the average. What is the average? How do you calculate? It is 50-50. So 0.5 into internal examination class average plus 0.5 into external examination class average. Suppose in your system for internals you are giving 25 and externals you are giving 75. Here it will be 0.25 into IECA plus 0.75 into ECA. So by the weighted average, you can calculate the class average for a direct attainment as 81.6. Okay. So now we are done with the direct method. What is available in direct method? What are the methods available for evaluating the course outcomes? You have the course end survey by the students as well as the faculty. So what type of, this is very much based on the questionnaire. All of us know that. What type of questionnaires can evaluate that? They may be instructor specific survey questions. They may be about the course material specific surveys, course delivery specific survey, course content specific surveys, of course certain other parameters like whether the course has intended for the said objectives, all that can be taken under here, and you can also have the faculty survey. Fine. So what do I have now? I have the direct score. I have the indirect score, which is taken from the Gaussian survey. I have to calculate the overall CO attainment. What is the overall CO attainment? Once again, direct, that is 80%, 20%. If I have the direct score, I have is say 81.6. That is for 100. This has to be converted for 80 plus the indirect score is for 20% weightage. That score. So you once again calculate the weighted average and you have to go for the attainment percentage calculation and subsequent gap analysis. So now you can see that direct is 81.6, indirect due to survey is 80. So you have the target, earlier we fixed as 70. Here I told you it may be 80%, 20% or 90%, 20%. If so, you will take it as, if I assume that it is 80-20, this is for 100, convert to 80 plus this is for 100, convert to 20, now it becomes for 100, that is 81.44. You fix the target in the beginning as 70, based on your own previous experience or in general, you can see that you have attained more than the target, which is 11.44 above. Whereas if you take the CO2 with a similar calculation, the percentage you are getting is 67.81 here, and the target fixed is 80. So there is a negative thing here. Here you are above the target, whereas here you are below the target. This is the type of observation you make under the gap analysis. So a teacher, every teacher is expected to have a table like that where the CO spelled, the target specified, the CO attainments calculated, the gaps indicated, what is the action proposed to bridge the gap. As I told you, CO1 is initially about the understanding, whereas CO2 is about the application. It is an indication that the application level concepts are either not taught or they are unable to apply the concept to a particular scenario. So what are the methods you are trying to apply to improve or bridge the gap? So that is what you have to, the instructor must always try to reduce the attainment gap or enhance the attainment targets by specifically mentioning what types of exercises or modifications you are going to bring in the course syllabus so that these unattained goals can be attained. Okay. I was also talking to you about the grading scale of a student. I think if it is too confused, I don't want to deal on that because we had a presentation of 10, 70, 20. Likewise, you can also have correspondingly how many students are under scale 1, how many percentage of students are under scale 2, scale 3. Likewise, such targets can also be measured for different gradings. All that is also done. That is for different gradings also. You can have the CO attainment for a particular course, and ultimately you can say whether it is attained or not. So this is simple graphical representation of the entire. Yeah. Here comes once COs are done. Here comes the COPO method. This also you might have, your institution might have done it, because for every course, as I told you in the beginning, every program has got program objectives, not only that, program outcomes, not only that, you also have program specific outcomes. From PO 1 to 10, you have the program outcomes. Then PSO 1 to 3, you may have program specific outcomes. And every course, suppose if you have 20 papers, you can have them as CO 20.1 is the 20th paper, first course outcome, 20th paper, second course outcome, 20th paper, third course outcome. Likewise, you can, all the course codes can be given here along with the correlation matrix. So you know, if it is about the transferring knowledge, it can be highly correlated, so it can be 3. Whereas if it is about ethics and other things, it may not directly map on that your particular course, so you can have 0. So this exercise you would have already done. 0 for there is no correlation, 1 for low correlation, 2 for medium correlation, and 3 for high correlation. One thing you must understand that for every course, it should not be mapped onto every program outcome. See, this is a general misunderstanding among the faculty. As I told you in the beginning, the parameters are critical thinking, lifelong learning, ethics, enhancing the knowledge, usage of technology, etc., etc. So every paper or every course need not have to be mapped on that. So it is not necessary that every course outcome has to be mapped on all the 13, 10 program outcomes and 3 program specific outcomes. So this, I think you are all well versed in that. What is given here is for every POs and for a particular course, you calculate the sum and the average. This is very, very important. The average is very important, which we are using to do the attainment calculation. Yeah. So maybe my CO4 is attached to, because our system has 5 units, so it is another strategy. There are 5 units, so every CO is attached with 1 unit. So if I say CO4, that means naturally it is unit 4. What the unit 4 learners after doing learning unit 4? I'm saying, I'm declaring that after learning unit 4, students of cybersecurity course can classify different types of cyber attacks, illustrate various attack scenarios and the reasons behind them. If I say this is the outcome, then I can say where all on program outcomes it can be mapped. That is, whether it enhances knowledge, whether it helps in critical thinking, promotes, yes. Is there ethics? Yes, I can say ethics. Is there a scope for lifelong learning? Yes. So I can list all the COs and the corresponding POs. And can also measure the strength of the CO attainment and the COPO mapping using the different scales. Once again, these scales can be measured in terms of their range of strength. If this is confusing, we can just leave it. We can follow the simple strategy which I explained here using the different scales. Once again, these scales. So this also I skip for reading. Here, I am also defining a table. You can also simplify it more. Everything and anything need not be too scientific. I'll just show a simple case study, an example how we have worked so that you can follow or you can devise your own IQAC coordinator can devise your own mechanism. Here, I'm mapping all the COs with the probable POs, and as I showed you previously, the CO attainment score can also be given like this in a table form. But how are we going to analyze that's more important here. So now, and this 81.44 and 75.6 we have already derived and picked up. Now, I'm normalizing everything to 1 so that the PO1 of course 100 is 0.5, PO2 of course 100 in a similar way because it is 3. I've given the correlation as 3. So the average score I'm taking here. So likewise, you can calculate the PO attainment score based on the direct method because whatever I'm calculating is based on the local. Whenever it goes outside the campus, the opinion polls and all, it becomes indirect. So likewise, you can calculate the PO attainment score for everyone. It is given in the table, and of course all the courses can be listed, the COs can be listed, their individual attainments may be listed, the threshold or target may be listed, the PO score which we calculated as 0.5235 can be indicated here. Likewise, the overall PO attainment percentage for all the programs can also be calculated like this. Then we have the indirect method. Indirect method is exit. Here it is a program. So once again, as I told you in the beginning, like a course exit, you can also have a program exit where you can have about the content, the level of the program, the delivery of the program, and how the instructors or the teachers were able to handle that, what the faculty do about their opinion about the program. Likewise, you can just evaluate. There can be a questionnaire and you can take the answers and you can do the weighted average and the percentage of score. This is what is there here. So the final PO attainment report based on direct and indirect methods, weightage as I told you 90-10 can be calculated in this table form. Now here is a simple case study which helps us to understand the scientifically measured COPO attainment. Only 6 minutes more, I'd like to finish that. If you look at the roadmap of the entire attainment process, you start with the CO score based on the internal external examination, the COPO mapping, the attainment of the CO with direct and indirect method. Then you have PO calculation and attainment and the graduate exit survey. Then I'm here putting in our institution, we are preparing what is known as an outcome radar that helps us to perform the gap analysis subsequently as far as the COs as well as POs are concerned. Yes, you all have this Excel sheet. I showed you the average score in one of the tables. If you want, I can, yeah, the average score subsequently as far as the COs as well as POs are concerned. Yes, you all have this Excel sheet. I showed you the average score in one of the tables. If you want, I can, yeah, the average score subsequently as far as the COs as well as able to identify that. The average, simple average. Yes, I hope you remember this slide. Here we have put the average score as 3. So we are back here. The average, simple average. Yes, you can see the Excel sheet. For all the students, their CO1 scores are obtained. The actual CO1 score, their percentage, the average marks. Then this is based on the threshold. I told you, less than 50, 50 to 75, 75 and above. Likewise, so you put the CO attainment score accordingly as 2, 2, 2, 1. This is a sample thing. Then this is based on the threshold. So what are my COs for cybersecurity? Exhibit the knowledge and security principles. Classify and assess the different cyber attacks. Identify the different cyber crimes and frauds. Suggest necessary IT security controls. Compare the laws with the international laws. So I prepared a simple correlation map, I mean matrix, and I have calculated the average score. This was the attained score and this is the average score. Now, what do I have to do? I have to go for the direct and the indirect method calculation. Since it is a postgraduate program, our weightage is 40%, externally 60%. So I take the assignment scores like this, the direct methods like this. How do you calculate this average? I showed you a simple calculation here. Yeah, this is the weighted average. If it is 1, you calculate 1 by 3, that average. If it is 3, it is 3 by 3, that average. Likewise, when you calculate, I am getting for PO1 to 0.67, PO2 0.5, PO5 0.531. So, direct method based on the 40% of that, 40% of this score only I can take. Then the direct method, okay. Then you have the indirect method based on, you have a direct method based on the external examination, that weightage I have taken. For the external examination, 60% I have taken this. For convenience, I have taken the same score. It need not be the same. Internal will be different and external will be different. Now, the internal and external put together, this is the score. Out of which only 80% only I have to take. Indirect method is your survey. 20% of the survey score is this. Now the final attainment is direct 80% plus indirect 20% is this much. The mapping score is this much. So I can say whether it is attained or not. You can see that in most of the cases it is attained at PO4 only. It is not attained. So for which we have derived the outcome radar. You can see that P4 is totally deviating from the average. Now, likewise, you have to do for all the MSc computer science papers. You have 17 MCS, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. 15 up to 20 papers you have for an MSc computer science course. For all the courses, if you take the overall average PO attainment radar shows that MSc computer science course is good with P05. That means it is being assessed that it is more aligned with the leadership skills. Second one, technology to solve problems, to some extent develop interdisciplinary skills, core knowledge of higher education also to some extent okay, whereas developing global competency skills, it is not that much aligned. So this is the gap which we are identifying at the program level. So the gap analysis process must go on. So you have to revisit your PO, PSOs and COs, align them once again with the vision and mission of the institutions so that the final mapping can be after 5 years. So the PEO attainment also similar to this PO, PEO. So the employee, employer and alumni surveys can be taken. So here also you can have the correlation high, low, medium, etc. and do the similar thing and you can attain the overall score. So the general steps involved are you have to define the POs, COs properly, proper correlation between the COs and POs, preparation of the matrix, compare them with the attainment of outcomes by direct and indirect attainment, values with fixed proportions and the set values must be well defined. Completely evaluate the system for any type of deviation and try to improve the system. Okay. So to conclude, I say attainment of outcomes are derived from very strong and well-defined assessment methods. They are very important and also the indicators of the quality level of the students. It definitely helps us to identify the students' strengths and weaknesses and not only that but also the slow and fast learners. It helps us to improve the education system as well as improve the performance of the learners through innovative teaching learning process as well as the assessment process. But the entire exercise takes somewhere between 3 to 5 years so that we'll be able to stabilize the whole evaluation process. Of course, according to me, it's a very, very scientific and challenging as well as interesting exercise a teacher can always wish to do so that where we stand is something which we like to do from the students' perception and the way we have trained the students. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I have exceeded your time by 2 minutes. If there are any queries, I think I'll be happy to do that. From the students' perception and the way we have trained the students. Thank you for the opportunity. Dr. M. Sashikala has raised the hand. Your time by 2 minutes. If there are any queries, I think I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute your mic and proceed.
I hope I think this has to be derived in a workshop like thing. You have to come with your
Thank you, ma'am.
structure and then I can
Dear
just tell you
participants,
how
if you
you
have
can
any
calculate
queries, you can unmute
individually,
your mic and
maybe
proceed.
department wise. You can take up this exercise and see how you have attained that. I think that's the right way to do anyway. With the time frame that is given, I hope I could do something which is useful to you and you have to tell me. Attain that. I think that's the right way to do anyway. With the time frame that is given, I hope I could do something which is useful to you and you have to tell me.
Ma'am, as of now, we
Yeah.
have got a lot of information, ma'am. I think people will come up with queries only when they are undergoing the process.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I think you have started just now. I don't think I have repeated
as of now, we
anything
have got
what you are
a lot of
already
information, ma'am.
practicing.
I
And
think
I
people
hope
will come up
this
with
presentation is
queries
useful
only
to
when they are
you.
undergoing the
And
process.
okay, my
And
best wishes and prayers for the entire team to do a very wonderful job for the women community, especially this women institution. I'm happy about it. Okay, my best wishes
thank you, ma'am.
and prayers for the entire team to do a very
Thank you,
wonderful
ma'am.
job for the
I
women's
would like to
community,
call upon
especially
our
this
beloved
women
madam, Mrs. R. Shubha,
institution.
Assistant Professor of
Happy
Home
about
Science,
it.
Nutrition Dietetics, and IQAC member to
Thank
propose
you, ma'am.
formal vote of thanks.
Good
Thank you, ma'am.
evening to all.
I
I
would
deemed
like
it
to
a
call
great
upon
honor
our
and
beloved
privilege
madam,
to
Mrs. R.
propose vote
Shubha,
of thanks
Assistant
for this
Professor of Home
national
Science,
level 5-day online faculty level program on NEP 2020. First of all, I would like to thank our managing board members for their interest and continuous support to carry out our IQAC activities. I thank our well-wisher, our dynamic principal, Dr. S.M. Meenarani ma'am, for her constant support and vision. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our IQAC coordinator, Dr. S. Sindhana ma'am, for her valuable guidance and encouragement in all our efforts. I owe my special gratitude to our guest speaker, Dr. G. Batmavati, Dean, School of Physical Sciences and Computational Sciences, who shared her knowledge on OBA attainment of outcomes. Ma'am, your lecture gave us clear vision about the constraints of OBE, methods of assessment, major steps in attainment process, and it emphasizes learner-centric self-learning approach. Thank you, ma'am. I extend my generous thanks to the participants from other colleges for their involvement throughout the session. I thank all our faculty members who actively participated and made this program a resounding success. I express my gratitude to all the IQC members and supportive staffs for their constant support in all endeavors. Once again, I thank you one and all. Thank you. And make this program a resounding success. I express
Thank you
my
very much,
gratitude to all the
organizers.
IQC
Can I
members
leave the
and
meeting?
supportive staff for their
Yes, ma'am.
constant support in all
Thank you,
endeavors.
ma'am. Thank you once
Once
again
again,
for
I thank you
Yeah,
giving us a
kindly share
wonderful.
the kindly share the feedback because I'm expecting some questions. I had to I couldn't reduce the slides.
Sure.
Sorry, they are
Yes, ma'am.
more in number.
Thank you,
I'll
ma'am.
be
Thank
happy
you once
to
again for
clarify your
giving
doubts
us
if
a
there are
wonderful.
any in future. Best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Some questions I had to I couldn't reduce the slides.
Sure.
Sorry, they are more in
An
number.
important note to the
I'll be happy
participants,
to
feedback link is
clarify your
shared in the
doubts
chat
if there
box.
are any in
Kindly fill and
future.
submit it
Best wishes.
immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Some questions I couldn't reduce the slides. Sorry, they are more in
I
number.
repeat, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill and submit it immediately. Participants, kindly fill the feedback link, submit. I repeat, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill and submit it immediately. Participants, kindly fill the feedback link, submit. I repeat, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill and submit it immediately. Participants, kindly fill the feedback link, submit. Let us all meet tomorrow for the fourth day of the FDP through via the same link sharply at 2:15 p.m. Thank you. Let us all meet tomorrow for the fourth day of the FDP through via the same link sharply at 2:15 p.m. Thank you. Let us all meet tomorrow for the fourth day of the FDP through via the same link sharply at 2:15 p.m. Thank you. Let us all meet tomorrow for the fourth day of the FDP through via the same link sharply at 2:15 p.m.